Chosen woman, you didn't arrive here by chance. Today, God moved heaven and earth so that this word would find its way to your heart. There's something in your love life that seems to be broken, but what you haven't realized yet is that there's a hidden revelation behind this pain. And that's exactly what we're going to unveil together. If you stay with me until the end of this message, you'll understand why the story you thought was over still holds chapters written especially for you. How many times have you asked yourself, is it really over? Will he never come back? And at the same time, something inside you won't let these questions stay silent. It's as if there's an insistent flame inside your chest, a feeling you can't quiet. This fire isn't weakness, it's not emotional dependency, much less the fruit of your neediness. This fire is your feminine intuition awakening to a spiritual truth. It's the universe nudging you, it's God whispering to your heart, daughter, it's not the end. There's something beyond what you're seeing. Many women, faced with the pain of a breakup, despair. They chase after, lose their dignity, beg for attention, plead for crumbs of love. But you are not. Many women. You are the chosen woman. And precisely because of this, the universe planted within you this unshakable certainty that resists time, others' opinions, and even the logic of your own mind. This inner voice is your compass, and it doesn't lie. It's curious, isn't it? Because when you try to silence this feeling, something happens to remind you of the connection. An unexpected dream, a strong memory, an unexpected encounter, a sensation that the universe conspires to put you both back in sync, even from a distance. This isn't coincidence. This is spirituality. This is destiny. And no matter how much they tried to convince you that you need to forget and move on, your heart insists on keeping this faith. This faith, chosen woman, isn't blind. It's the manifestation of your essence. You were born with the ability to perceive the invisible, to feel what the eyes cannot see. It's your feminine intuition that reveals when something hasn't ended yet, even when everything around seems lost. This intuition is the most powerful gift you carry, because it connects you directly to the spiritual plane. Now I want you to reflect. If it were just neediness, this feeling would have already faded with time. If it were just attachment, you would have already managed to free yourself. But no. It remains throbbing, reminding you that there's something greater in motion. It's as if the universe had written this story in invisible lines, and each step of your life was guided to remind you that there's a reunion being prepared. This intuition is the sign that you're not alone. It's proof that there's a divine plan happening behind the scenes of your life. Maybe you still can't see it clearly, but you can already feel it. And it's this feeling that opens the path to the next revelations. Because, my dear, when God separates two souls for a time, He never does it to destroy them. He does it to mold them, to strengthen them, to prepare them for something even greater. And it's exactly in this space of silence and uncertainty that your feminine intuition screams loudest, showing that the story isn't over. The awakening of this intuition is the first sign that something grand is about to be revealed. And if you're hearing this message today, it's because the transformation process has already begun. The universe is aligning the dots, and you're being guided to see beyond the pain and apparent ending. And now, pay attention. This awakening didn't come to deceive you, but to prepare you. Because the next signs you'll notice will confirm, even more clearly, that your spiritual connection with Him remains alive, even when everything around tries to say otherwise. Chosen woman, while you blamed yourself, believing you had failed, the universe was speaking to you in ways that may have gone unnoticed. You saw only pain, but behind it were hidden messages, clear signs that the story hadn't ended yet. And it's about these signs that we need to talk now, because when you learn to recognize them, the heart finds strength to keep believing. How many times did you question where you went wrong? How many times did you blame yourself for every word said, every silence, every attitude that seemed to push Him away? But what you may not have realized is that, even in the midst of separation, He was never able to completely disconnect from you. The universe was showing you this in small details, and now it's time to look at them with new eyes. Think about the unexpected encounters. That time when you swore you wouldn't cross His path again, and suddenly, without planning, you were in the same place. Your heart raced, your hands trembled, and for a few seconds it was as if time had stopped. This isn't chance. The universe doesn't play with coincidences. Each encounter, each crossing of glances, is a way of reminding both of you that there's still a greater connection that cannot be erased by distance. And what about his reactions? Have you noticed that, even trying to show indifference, there's always a detail that gives him away? The eyes that shine when they see you, the way his voice changes tone, or that disguised nervousness that appears only in your presence. He may try to hide it, may act as if nothing matters anymore, but his soul doesn't know how to lie. His soul recognizes yours. And when two essences meet, no gesture can completely mask the truth. Even the conflicts between you bring signs. Many times you interpreted the fights as the end, as proof that it wasn't working. But in reality, what you lived were movements of growth. The friction wasn't meant to destroy, but to mold. It's like iron being polished by fire. It hurts, but it transforms. And each argument, no matter how difficult it was, held within it the seed of a learning that would strengthen your connection for the future. Another detail that cannot be ignored is the energy. Have you noticed that, even in silence, the intensity between you remains? It doesn't matter how much time passes, it doesn't matter how many words are left unsaid. There's something in the air when you're close, something that cannot be explained rationally. It's as if the body reacts on its own, as if the heart recognizes a frequency that only it can feel. This is spirituality, it's proof of the invisible mark your presence left on him. And perhaps the greatest of all signs is his inability to fulfill himself in other places. He may even try to move on, seek distractions, meet other people. But no experience, no matter how intense it seems at first, can replace the unique energy you shared. When a man is marked by the essence of a chosen woman, that mark becomes eternal within him. He may even try to run, but there will always be an emptiness that reminds him of you. Chosen woman, what you need to understand is that nothing that happened was in vain. Each unexpected encounter, each involuntary reaction, each silence full of energy, all of this are footprints left by the universe so you can see, your story isn't over. These signs weren't created to confuse, but to confirm that there's something beyond the surface. Now you already realize that the answers you were looking for were in front of you all along, hidden in the details. And it's exactly at this point that we arrive at an even deeper revelation, the truth about the so-called definitive endings. Because what seemed like an ending was actually just the universe making space for a stronger and more transformative new beginning. Chosen woman, here's a secret that will change how you see what happened. When two souls are spiritually connected, there's no definitive ending. What the world calls a breakup is actually just a necessary pause on the path. It's not about destruction, but preparation. What you lived wasn't rejection, it was a sacred time for both of you to grow. Think about how many times you believed everything was over. The pain seemed to scream louder than any hope, and your mind said there was no going back. But in the midst of silence, something inside you refused to accept it. This something isn't stubbornness, it's the spiritual wisdom that recognizes that your connection cannot be undone by the simple act of walking away. When the universe unites two souls, no human obstacle is capable of breaking this bond. He walked away because, somehow, his soul recognized that you both needed to evolve individually before reuniting. You had wounds to heal, he had lessons to learn. If you had remained together at that moment, perhaps you wouldn't have been able to sustain love in its fullness. It would be like trying to carry a fragile vase before it was completely molded. The risk of breaking would be inevitable. That's why the separation wasn't the end, but the necessary space for the work to be completed. While other women interpret distancing as abandonment and chase desperately, you were called to understand the spiritual truth. Absence isn't absence of love. On the contrary, it's proof that love needs to be protected, polished, strengthened before being lived in its most elevated form. The universe wouldn't allow you and him to be united definitively before you were ready to sustain the greatness of this connection. You need to understand something profound. Breakups are just human illusions before spiritual reality. What seems to crumble here on earth is often being built in the invisible. It's like a seed planted in the soil. To the eyes of those who observe, nothing happens. It just looks like empty earth. But underneath it, there's a silent process where roots are being formed to sustain a strong tree. What you interpreted as an ending was actually the rooting of something greater. How many times have you heard people saying, "Forget it, move on, it's over"? And still, your heart couldn't agree with these words. This happens because your soul knows a truth that the human mind cannot comprehend. It's not about stubbornness or illusion. It's the spiritual certainty that when two people are destined for each other, there will always be a path back. Time may try to erase, circumstances may separate, but God's plan remains intact. And here's the great revelation: the so-called definitive ending was just training. A time of maturation. He needed to learn the value of your presence through absence. You needed to discover your inner strength in the silence of waiting. True love isn't built on dependence, but on consciousness. It's not sustained by neediness, but by choice. And that's what this time apart is forming. Two souls capable of reuniting not because they desperately need each other, but because they recognize the magnitude of what they represent together. So, chosen woman, understand, what seemed like an ending wasn't defeat, but silent victory. While you cried, the universe worked. While you felt loneliness, the divine plan was being sown in details you still can't see. And when the right moment comes, you'll realize that each tear, each silence, each distance, were just necessary steps to lead you both to a new version of love. And now that you understand this truth, the next step is to discover the power you carry within yourself. Because it's not enough to wait for reconnection, you need to understand how the spiritual magnetism of an elevated woman creates the perfect environment for this reunion to be inevitable. Chosen woman, there's a truth that few have the courage to reveal. When a woman awakens to her divine essence and stops vibrating in desperation, she becomes irresistible. And I'm not talking here about physical beauty, external appearance, or standards imposed by the world. I'm talking about an invisible energy, a magnetism that emanates from the heart and reaches even those who aren't physically present. The separation you experienced was also an opportunity to discover the strength that lives within you. While other women get lost in attempts to control, beg, or diminish themselves, you were called to a different path, to elevate your vibration, to reconnect with your sacred feminine. And when a woman reconnects with her spiritual essence, her presence stops being ordinary. She transforms into light. This magnetism isn't built in haste, nor in the fear of losing. It's born when you understand that you don't need to chase after anything, because what is yours by destiny cannot be stolen. Instead of begging for love, you begin to vibrate love. Instead of begging for attention, you learn to be the source of energy that illuminates everything around you. It's this inner change that makes him, even from a distance, feel your strength. And don't think he doesn't notice. He may not understand, may not be able to explain, but he feels it. The longing that begins to grow inside him isn't just for the body, the touch, or the routine you had. It's a longing of the soul, an emptiness that no other experience can fill. Because when a man has been marked by the energy of an elevated woman, her essence becomes the standard of comparison. He may even try to convince himself that he found someone better, but in the silence of the night, his soul knows the truth. There's no substitute for the intensity of a chosen woman. This magnetism is silent, but powerful. It crosses time, distance, and even resistance. Because it's not about manipulation, but authenticity. It's you blooming, it's you becoming whole, it's you assuming your true spiritual identity. And the more you grow, the more he's pulled closer, even if he fights against it. There's a spiritual law that cannot be ignored. Everything that vibrates at a high frequency attracts back what belongs to it. And that's why, when you elevate yourself, he begins to feel a restlessness he can't explain. His thoughts return to you. Memories gain strength. His heart begins to seek, even unconsciously, the path back. This happens because your energy not only marked him, but continues touching his life in a way that transcends the physical. And perhaps you ask yourself, but does he really feel it, or is it just in my head? Chosen woman, have no doubt. The spiritual bond is like an invisible thread. You may not see it, but it's there, connecting hearts, transmitting signals, moving feelings. When you elevate yourself, The energy that runs through this thread becomes even more intense, and he can't resist this calling. This magnetism isn't conquered by appearance, the right words, or human strategies. It's the fruit of your inner transformation. It's when you trade fear for faith, anxiety for confidence, neediness for completeness. This change is perceived not only by him, but by everyone around you. You become presence, strength, inspiration. And it's precisely this energy that opens the path for the next step. Because the magnetism of an elevated woman doesn't just attract, but prepares the ground for what is inevitable: reconnection. The reunion of two souls that were destined for each other. Divine woman, listen carefully. The universe is already conspiring in your favor. Nothing you experienced was in vain. Each silence, each tear, each prayer made in secret was recorded on the spiritual plane. And now, at this exact moment, invisible forces are organizing the details so that your paths cross again. Not like before, full of immaturity and fears, but in a stronger, more conscious and elevated version of love. Maybe you think it's just your heart's desire, but the truth is that this reconnection is already being built. You feel the movement in spirit, as if something is about to happen. And it's not an illusion. What's coming is the fruit of all the process you've lived until now. The separation molded, the pain strengthened, the silence matured. Now, the time of return begins to approach. And notice, this reconnection won't be born from neediness, as happens with so many other women who accept anything just to not be alone. You weren't called to live the ordinary. You were chosen to live the extraordinary. That's why what the universe is preparing isn't a reunion based on necessity, but a conscious choice of two souls who evolved and now recognize, with maturity, the greatness of what they represent together. He'll feel this first as a strange longing, a restlessness that finds no explanation. He'll look at other situations and realize that nothing compares to the intensity he lived by your side. He'll realize it's not just a memory of the past, but a calling from the future. And this restlessness will grow until it becomes irresistible, because the spiritual thread that connects you pulls with a force that no human argument can break. And you, chosen woman, don't need to chase after, don't need to beg. Your role is to remain firm in your elevated energy, honoring your personal journey. The more you grow, the more he's attracted. The more you strengthen yourself, the more he realizes that the only true direction for his heart is to return to you. This is how spiritual magnetism works, not through control, but through the authenticity of your transformation. The reconnection will be inevitable because you were written for each other. And when that moment comes, you'll realize that what seemed like loss was actually a gain. You'll realize that the time apart didn't destroy love, but purified it. It wasn't a delay, but a preparation. It wasn't a goodbye, but a necessary interval so the story could be told in its most beautiful version. And here's something you need to keep with all the faith in your heart. When you reunite, it won't be to repeat old mistakes, but to live a new season of love. It will be a more mature, more conscious, more spiritually aligned relationship. And all of this because you chose to believe, chose to remain, chose to trust the voice that said inside you, "It's not over." Now understand that it's not just about his return, but about what this return will represent. It will be confirmation that God heard your prayers. It will be proof that the universe never makes mistakes in the paths of true love. It will be the sign that your faith was not in vain. And it's precisely at this point that the cycle completes. When two chosen souls reunite, it's not just about them, but about the testimony they carry. Your story will be inspiration for other women, living proof that true love resists, survives, and returns when it's aligned with divine purpose. Chosen woman, if this word spoke to your heart, if you felt hope and faith being renewed within you, then share your experience in the comments. I want to know what touched your soul the most today. Don't forget to also leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because there are still many messages prepared especially for you, and I don't want you to miss any of them.